the country's Christian majority. The country is rich in gold, diamonds, and other natural resources, but decades of unrest and mismanagement have left most of these people stuck in poverty.
Welcome back, and we're joined today by Mr. Bishoy Ramzy, journalist at Cairo Post. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Sir, how would you see the situation in the Central African Republic? How do you see the international role to contain the crisis? What do you expect for the future in the Central African Republic?
First of all, the current violence witnessed in Central African Republic came for political reasons, while it turned later into a religious strife. You can say that the failure of the current Muslim-led government to contain the fear of the Christian majority played a major role to increase or to escalate the situation there in Central African Republic. You know that the Muslim Selika movement managed to overthrow former President Francois Bozizi in March 2013, and they seized the power while they failed to contain their supporters from committing violation against the Christian majority.
Right.
The Christians represent over 85% of the population there. Yeah. On the regional side, we can say that the regional developments witnessed during the recent years provided the suitable atmosphere to fuel sectarianism in the continent. You know that a number of extremist groups played or performed an escalating role in a number of African countries like Nigeria, Boko Haram in Nigeria, Mali, Uganda. So we can say that the suitable atmosphere or the public atmosphere in the continent fueled the sectarian nature of the conflict.
The Security Council voted unanimously to send 12,000 UN peacekeepers to the Central African Republic. How do you view this?
It was an expected decision to contain the current violence and the state of chaos witnessed in the country, while I think that the international community should perform more serious role to contain the current crisis. I think there is a need for a mediating role.
Right.
International community should interfere to mediate between the conflicting parties. You know that...
But whom do you think should take this mediating role? An African country or all the African countries together?
I think that the solution of this crisis must come from Africa. The international community failed to contain a large number of the African crises during the recent years. Ban Ki-moon, during his speech on April 6 in front of the Transitional Council in Central African Republic, said that, or warned of the repeat of the Rwandan crisis in 1994 and described what happened as a war of genocide. So the previous experience proved that the failure of the Western powers to contain any crisis in Africa. In my opinion...
And even the UN.
And even the UN. They always deploy peacekeeping troops while they don't make any other serious role to contain the conflict or to achieve serious stability, what the politicians describe as peace-building process.
So you think the solution has to come within Africa?
Yeah,
from within the African continent?
The African Union should perform a major role to contain the current crisis through forcing the two conflicting parties to sit on the negotiating table. I said before that it is a political process, it's a political conflict, and it needs a political solution. Also, the leading powers in Africa, including Egypt, should perform a major role in this regard through mediating between the conflicting parties and also to provide assistance to these countries.
The Central African Republic's government say that UN authorization of the peacekeepers is a good start, but they are questioning the timing of the mission. What's your comment on this?
I think that the decision it came too late. While it is not important, in my opinion, it is not important to deploy peacekeeping troops only. I think that there is a need for finding serious solution. This solution should extend the economic side, the educational side. The main problem in this region is that the leaders of the countries cannot realize the lessons of history. We know what happened in South Sudan. In South Sudan, the rebels conflicted against the central government in Khartoum for decades.
Which ended in a division of the country.
Of course.
Which eventually was not for the favor of Sudan as a whole.
Of course. So we need to find serious solution to resolve the daily problems of the people, as such problems fuel sectarianism and sectarian problems witnessed in these countries.
What do you think are the main repercussions of this crisis on the region, on the African region?
Of course, the current crisis in Central African Republic could affect the region as a whole. Regarding the neighboring states, we have South Sudan, and Chad. These countries suffer from a state of instability due to the tribal conflicts witnessed there. So the governments of these countries should perform a major role to secure the borders, to prevent any attempts to smuggle weapons or to infiltrate people, to prevent those elements who can perform a role to raise a chaos in their countries. On the other hand, as I said before, that we have a number of extremist groups in other African countries, like Boko Haram in Nigeria, Lord's Army in Uganda. These extremist groups, the main challenge is the interference of these extremist groups from outside Central Africa in the conflict. I think that it could pave the way for a regional sectarian war. So the leading powers should interfere immediately to contain the current crisis.
Do you think that violence between Christians and Muslims in the Central African Republic has triggered fears of a genocide?
Of course, they currently face a genocide in Central Africa. While I think that it is not sectarian conflict. You know that the Christian supporters of the former president formed a militia, which is called Anti-Balaka. This militia aims to restore the power. It is not the sectarian reason. The sectarian reason or the sectarian nature of the conflict is just a cover to came to cover their political ambitions.
The African peacekeeping force will, in the meantime, lose 850 soldiers from Chad, which announced it was withdrawing after being accused repeatedly of siding with Muslims. What's your comment on this?
I think that it's normal. As we face the current violence or the current conflict in Central African Republic, and most of the people find it as sectarian violence, so it is normal, I think.
A quarter of the Central African Republic's 4.6 million people have been displaced by the violence in over a year. How do you view the huge number of refugees?
This huge number of refugees poses a serious threat against the economy of the neighboring states, which is already suffering from very bad economic conditions due to their tribal conflicts and also due to their bad economic conditions in general. I think that the United Nations and the international organization should provide the neighboring state and the other states that receive refugees with humanitarian aids to contain this phenomena, which is considered a major threat against them.
Right, sir. The resolution calls on the transitional administration to accelerate preparations to hold free and fair presidential and legislative elections. How, in February, I guess. How do you view these upcoming elections?
I think that the current atmosphere is not suitable for any elections, in my opinion. Of course, we need to find...
I think the situation inside the Central African Republic is not prepared for elections.
Yeah, we need to find a political solution, then we can determine the date of elections and also how can we make it. I think that...
So you think it's not going to be fair?
Yeah, the current government came to power and it failed to honor its commitments. They promised the people in the beginning that they will achieve equality and justice among the citizens, while they failed to honor these commitments. So I think that they need to prove their ability to honor their commitments first, and also the coming elections. As I said, that the current atmosphere is not suitable for the elections. So we need to find a political solution first to reach a compromise. We can form fact-finding missions to investigate the violation and to prosecute the violators, to gain the confidence of the people. I think that the people will not be confident of, will trust that such a process.
Right, sir. U.S. Ambassador Samantha Power said the Central African Republic was on the edge of a disaster. Do you believe that the UN troops would rescue the torn country?
I think that they can do it while the mission is very difficult. I think that they have very difficult task to do during the coming period. Also, the security solution must coincide with the political solution to the crisis.
Do you think the current violence taking place in the Central African Republic could turn into a situation that leads to its partition, the same like what took place in Sudan?
Of course, your question reminded me of the statement issued by the French Foreign Ministry last week. A French official said that France supports the evacuation of Muslims from the country. I think that such a statement reflects the notable change witnessed in the French position. You know that France supported in the beginning the coup against the former president, while they changed their position now. I believe that France is not a confident party to perform a major role in this crisis. I know that they try to perform a major role to keep their influence in the country, to dominate its natural sources, especially that the country is rich of gold, diamonds, and other natural sources. So I think that while they are not a confident mediator, they will not be a confident mediator because of the change witnessed in their positions. Of course.
So do you think there are other hidden factors behind what's taking place in the Central African Republic?
Sorry?
Do you think there are some other hidden factors behind what's taking place in the Central African Republic?
I think that it is just the political conflict witnessed in the country, and there is a conflict on power. It is not a sectarian problem.
Right, Mr. Bishoy Ramzy, journalist at Cairo Post, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, with this we wrap up this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Culture Magazine, where we give you an overview of the culture events happening here in Egypt. Let's take a look on the details of this episode right after the news headlines. 36 years after President Jimmy Carter made peace between Egypt and Israel, Camp David is now with both history and theater. Carter and his wife, Rosaline, returned to Washington on Thursday night to open a new play at the Arena stage about one of their greatest achievements in the White House. Camp David retraces 13 days of tense negotiations in 1978 at the presidential retreat in Maryland that produced an unlikely but lasting peace agreement. By the time the lights came up, the former U.S. president had tears in his eyes and was hugging actor Richard Thomas, who played him on stage. The Carters cooperated in making the play, providing their diaries and sitting for interviews, but did not review or edit on the script. While a story of the remarkable peace accord may at first sound like theater for political